Most people think fluency is about knowing thousands of words. They imagine that somewhere out there, on the other side of an enormous vocabulary, 10,000 words, 20,000 words, the entire dictionary memorized and ready, there is a version of themselves that can finally speak English freely, confidently, without hesitation. So they study. They make flashcard after flashcard. They memorize word lists. They highlight vocabulary in textbooks. They download apps that promise to teach them a new word every day. And after months of this, sometimes years, they sit down in front of a native speaker and they freeze. The words evaporate. The sentences do not come. The gap between the vocabulary they have studied and the English they can actually produce in a real conversation feels as wide as it ever did. Something is wrong with the picture, and today we are going to fix it. Because the truth about English fluency, the truth that changes everything for the people who hear it and believe it, is this. You do not need thousands of words to speak English. You need the right words. Use the right way. With enough confidence and enough flexibility to make them work in almost any situation you will ever encounter. And the number of words required to do that is smaller than you think. Much smaller. Let us talk about how language actually works. Because most people who are learning English have a fundamentally mistaken model of what fluency is. And that mistaken model is the primary reason they are not making the progress they are capable of. Here is the model most people carry. Fluency equals a large vocabulary plus correct grammar. The more words you know and the fewer mistakes you make, the more fluent you are. Fluency is, in this model, an accumulation. You add words and subtract errors until one day the total is sufficient. This model is wrong. Fluency is not an accumulation. It is a skill. And the skill is not knowing words. It is using words, deploying what you have, making your existing vocabulary work harder, stretch further, cover more ground than it would if you treated every word as a single-purpose tool. Let me show you what I mean. The word get. A single, simple, common English word. 400 years of English literature could not get by without it. And here is the extraordinary thing about get. It does not mean one thing. It means dozens of things, depending on context. Get up, get out, get in, get over it, get through it, get to know someone, get a feeling, get sick, get better, get what I mean, get started, get lost, get real, get on with your life. One word, infinite applications. The person who understands how get works, who has internalized its flexibility, can express ideas in English that a person with 3 times the vocabulary but no feel for the language cannot express, because they are waiting for the precise word while the fluent speaker is already talking. This is the principle at the heart of what we are going to talk about today. High-frequency words, the small group of words that appear constantly in everyday English, are not simple because they have simple meanings. They are powerful precisely because their meanings are flexible, because they stretch, because a native speaker who needs to express something and does not have the perfect word does not stop and say, "I cannot continue." They use what they have, they bend it, they combine it, they get the meaning across. And 500 of the right words used this way will take you further than 5,000 words treated as a fixed inventory of single meanings. Now let us get specific. What are these 500 words? Linguists who study English have calculated that the most frequently used words in the language, the words that appear most often in conversations, in books, in films, in everything, follow a pattern that is almost shocking in its inequality. The top 100 words in English account for approximately 50% of everything ever said or written in the language. The top 1,000 words account for approximately 80%. Let that sink in. 1,000 words cover 80% of the English language as it is actually used by real people in real situations. This means that the 500 most important words in English, the words that appear constantly, that carry the weight of everyday communication, that form the backbone of every conversation you will ever have, are not exotic vocabulary. They are not technical terms or literary words, or the kind of language that appears in formal writing, but never in speech. They are words like make, take, come, go, know, think, feel, want, need, use, find, give, tell, ask, seem, turn, call, keep, let, begin, show, hear, play, run, move, live, believe, hold, bring, happen, write, sit, stand, lose, pay, meet, include, continue, set, learn, change, lead, understand, watch, follow, stop, create, speak, read, spend, grow, open, walk, win, offer, remember, love, consider, appear, buy, wait, serve, die, send, expect, build, stay, fall, cut, reach, kill, remain, suggest, raise, pass, sell, require, report, decide, pull. These are not impressive words. They are not the words you show off with at a dinner party. They are the words that hold a language together, the structural material, the load-bearing walls. And here is the key insight. The person who has truly internalized these 500 words, who does not just recognize them, but can produce them automatically, in combinations, under pressure, in real conversations, that person can speak English. Not perfectly, not with the richness of a native speaker with a lifetime of exposure, but functionally, communicatively, in a way that gets the meaning across and keeps the conversation moving. Because communication is not about perfection. Communication is about transfer. Did the meaning get from your mind to the other person's mind? If yes, you have communicated successfully. The vocabulary that achieved that transfer does not need to be extensive. It needs to be deployed skillfully. Now let us talk about the 3 things that make 500 words work like 5,000. The first is combinations. Simple words combined intelligently express complex ideas. This is not a trick or a workaround. It is how language actually works. Native speakers do this constantly without thinking about it. They take the small, flexible words they know and they combine them into expressions that carry enormous meaning. Think about the phrase, make up your mind. 3 simple words, make up your mind, that together means something specific and nuanced that you could not easily express with any single word. Or think about the difference between, I know him, and I know what he is like. Same basic vocabulary, completely different meaning. The skill is in the combination, not the vocabulary size. When you have a limited vocabulary and you need to express an idea, the question is not, what is the precise word for this? The question is, how can I combine the words I have to get this meaning across? And the answer almost always exists within the 500 high-frequency words, if you are flexible enough to find it. The second thing that makes a small vocabulary work like a large one is description. When you do not know the specific word for something, describe it. This is not a sign of inadequacy. It is a sign of communicative intelligence. It is exactly what native speakers do when they cannot retrieve the word they are looking for. You know, the thing you use to open a bottle, that twisty metal thing? A corkscrew. But before the word arrived, the description was completely functional. The meaning transferred. the conversation continued. Learners who have internalized the permission to describe, rather than waiting for the perfect word, are dramatically more fluent in real conversations than learners who stop and freeze every time a specific vocabulary item is unavailable. Because describing requires only general vocabulary, appearance, function, size, location, purpose, similarity to other things, all of which can be expressed with simple, high-frequency words. Practice describing. Take an object near you right now and describe it in English without using its name. It is something you use for, it looks like, it is made of, it is about the size of, you find it in, it works by. This exercise, practiced daily, builds the communicative flexibility that separates functional speakers from frozen ones. The third thing that makes 500 words sufficient is questions. Questions are the most underrated tool in the language learner's toolkit. When you are in a conversation and you do not understand something, or you do not have the vocabulary to continue, or you are running out of things to say, ask a question. Questions do three things simultaneously. They keep the conversation moving. They shift the speaking burden to the other person, giving you time to listen, to absorb, to prepare your next contribution. And they demonstrate engagement, the most important social signal in any conversation. The person who asks good questions is perceived as interested, intelligent, and easy to talk to, regardless of how sophisticated their vocabulary is. Can you explain that in a different way? What do you mean by that exactly? How would you describe it? What happened next? Why do you think that is? These are simple questions built from simple vocabulary that any learner at any level can produce, and that will carry a conversation further than any sophisticated vocabulary item. Learn 5 core question structures. Practice them until they are automatic, and use them freely, without embarrassment, in every English conversation you have. Now let us bring this all together with a practical challenge. A specific, concrete, immediately actionable challenge that you can begin today. Choose 5 words, just 5, from the high-frequency list we discussed. Words that you recognize but do not yet produce automatically. Words that you understand when you hear them, but do not yet reach for naturally when you speak. Spend 1 week with those 5 words, not studying them, living with them. Use each one at least 3 times every day, out loud, in a sentence, about something real in your life. Use them in combinations. Use them in questions. Use them in descriptions. Find every context where they naturally fit and put them there. At the end of the week, those 5 words will be yours. Not recognized, owned. And then choose 5 more. 50 weeks, 50 sets of 5 words, 250 words in a year, each one genuinely owned, automatically available, flexibly deployed. Combined with the words you already have, that is your 500. That is fluency, not theoretical fluency, real, functional, conversational fluency, built not through the accumulation of a vast passive vocabulary, but through the deep, active ownership of a small and powerful one. The people who speak English most fluently are not always the people who know the most words. They are the people who use what they know most confidently, most creatively, most without hesitation. Hesitation is the enemy of fluency, not vocabulary size. And hesitation is beaten not by knowing more words, but by trusting the words you already have. By knowing them well enough, deeply enough, automatically enough that they arrive when you need them without conscious effort. 500 words truly owned will take you there. Not someday, not after years of further study. Starting with the next sentence you speak, use what you have. It is enough.